All right, this is Lou Bisignani again. I've got a lot of stories, and this is one that goes way back. You wouldn't believe how old I am. My college graduation prom. Nancy and I were already married. We already had a little bambino named Priscilla, who was probably 5 months old at the time of the prom. I guess it was in like middle of May sometime. It was a wonderful affair, tuxedo, gown, the whole smear. There was a dance at the Hotel Casey. For those of you who are under 100 years old, you remember there was a Hotel Casey and a big, big ballroom and a couple of restaurants, and it was a great hotel. It's gone now. I mean, the building is still there, but it's gone. And after the dance, Nan and I and a number of other graduates and their dates went up to Timmy Moran's house in the Hill section. Timmy was one of the first friends I made at college 4 years before, and he was a dear friend. And his father, Dr. Moran, who was very well known in Scranton, he was an eminent proctologist, so that is why he was fondly regarded as a rear admiral in Scranton. He, in fact, operated on everybody in my family except me, my three sisters, my mother, and my father. But that's not part of the story. That's just a little side note. And so we go to Dr. Moran's house, and he himself had a tuxedo on, and his wife, his wonderful wife, has a beautiful gown on. He takes all of the men, my men, young men, college graduates, down to the basement of his home in the Hill section, and points out, as he had done in the past, the bar is well stocked. He didn't buy any bottles of booze. He used to buy the bottles with a little handle on the side. What were they, a half a gallon? And anything you could think of, he had at his bar. And then he and his lovely wife took her fur coat, put it on, went into the limo, and left for the evening. Now, we're all alone in his house. Not alone. There's 20 of us. The first game we play is, I don't know the name of the game, but if you make a mistake, you have to take a shot of whiskey. And I was always very bad at games. I never even win at bingo. But so I was drunk within 10 minutes after hitting the house. And I'd had a couple of drinks down at the bar, too. Nancy was right behind me. I don't mean standing, I mean drinking-wise. But the thing is, I was actually a little drunk. So I left the game, and I wandered into Tim's kitchen. And I was there alone for a couple of minutes, just trying to gather my wits. And Tim came in. Now, Tim and I were good friends. But he had a side to him that was a little, I don't want to say mean, I just want to say rakish, perhaps, or he was a skullduggery kind of a guy. And he said, "How are you feeling, Lou?" And I said, "Oh, I'm okay. I'll be fine." And he said, "You know something? You think you're a big drinker, but I know you're not that big a drinker. For example, here's a bottle of scotch. I bet you can't drink that bottle of scotch." Now, I was just drunk enough to think, maybe I can. So I picked up the bottle of scotch, and I did have some brain cells still functioning toward the back of the brain, saying, "Don't do this. You may regret this." And I started to chug out right from the bottle of scotch. I didn't get very far, probably 6, 7 ounces. When I put the bottle down, and I realized that was probably a mistake. Within 10 minutes, I was on his lawn out in the back of his house, throwing up, rolling around in it. Finally, he and another guy came out and dragged me back into the house because the neighbors were probably going to complain, and gave me the first floor bathroom, so it was all to myself. And I just hugged the what do they call it, the white throne, for the next couple of hours. And people at the party told me later, like a week later or the next time I saw them, that I was moaning and calling for help and asking God to save me for at least an hour and a half, 2 hours. When it was time to go home, Nancy gathered my almost destroyed body and got me into the car. And we went to her mother's house, because we were still living at her mother's house. As I said, I just finished my college, but we were already married and had a little baby. So we didn't have an apartment. We lived with her mother. And I remember Nancy taking me up the stairs, be quiet, because we don't want to wake up her mother and father, and holding up a soup pan, the kind of thing you put on your stove to boil, some soup in. under my chin as I went up the stairs so I wouldn't fall up on the stairs. I was pretty much empty by that time, but still, just to be on the safe side. So she got me into bed, and I guess I passed out. And the next morning, like, well, I don't know, 7 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and it was, oh, with a headache, and oh my ah. And I came downstairs, and there was Nancy's mother, who was a wonderful woman. My mother-in-law was a wonderful woman, good, great cook, but she was, she knew the ways of the world. She could see stupidity a mile away. And so instead of saying, you know, you got what you deserved, or that she was had the other side. She was, well, I hope you had a good time last night. But she knew exactly what had happened. And I was, oh, mom, please, let me just sit down. And she would like a cup of coffee. Oh, I'd love a cup of coffee. She gave me some coffee. And within about 45 minutes or an hour, Nancy came strolling down. She was in much better shape because there was a clam bake the same day. The next day after the prom, there's a clam bake up in the country someplace. They had a barn and a big field, and it was going to be clams and beer and whatever else you have at a clam bake. For the whole graduating class was invited. So about 11 o'clock in the morning, I felt alive enough. We drove up to the place, wherever it was, up near Clark Summit probably, and it was snowing. This is in May. Yes, I didn't make a mistake. There was not a lot of snow, but it was that cold that there were snowflakes coming down. So we spent the entire time in the barn. Luckily, there was a barn. And did I eat clams after what I had done the night before? Sure, I'm a Bisignani. So I ate clams. Did I drink a lot of beer? Sure, I'm a Bisignani. So I drank a lot of beer. I ate a lot of clams. I don't know how I did it, how I kept it down. But I was fine by 4 o'clock. Pretty much the end of the story. However, on Monday, Nancy reminded me that I had to return my tuxedo to Sarno's. And I begged off. I said, I can't go in there with the shape it's there. It's covered in dried vomit. And so I made Nancy go into the into to return it. I sat in the car because that's the kind of coward I am. I wasn't going to go in there and embarrass myself. So Nancy brought the tuxedo in. They didn't say much. Maybe they asked us an extra couple of bucks for cleaning or something like that. And end of story. How I survived my college graduation, dance, party at Moran's, throwing up for hours, almost not surviving, and getting rid of the tuxedo. That's it.